Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahabushai, Bahashum, Barakahak Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahashum, Yahabushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure unto the end. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you with another lesson. I'm going to start it off in 2nd Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha, verse 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And what should come to mind is what? Situations like 2019 to 2021 with the C-19 and the L0ckdowns, which L-downs are coming again, as well as a state of martial law, societal collapse, civil unrest, you name it. Situations necessitating, people having to stay inside and military-style checkpoints being set up and you having to have the right identification, which we know Trump is planning on moving ICE to take over for TSA at these airports, due to that situation with the partial government shutdown, which the brother in Kansas City, beautifully said that, hey, that's the beginning of your military checkpoints right there. But regardless, checkpoints, L-downs, people not being able to freely move about the city is coming again. And there's so many different factors that's going to lead to this. As K. Schwab of the WEF said, we're entering the time of the poly or all crises. But the first bit of information I'll be going to is on endtimeheadlines.org, titled Emergency Playbook for Worldwide Crises Quietly Released. Get ready for L-Down 2.0. The quiet release of an emergency energy playbook has sparked global concern, with some warning to get ready for L-Down 2.0 if fuel shortages worsen, which, the average person can see that these gas and diesel prices are steadily going up. And, you've got this whole situation with the Strait of Hormuz, again, the time of the poly crises. The guidance comes from the International Energy Agency, IEA, which last week released its report Sheltering from Oil Shocks, outlining 10 steps countries could take when supplies tighten. The report was issued in response to the ongoing conflict in Western Asia, which has all but choked off traffic through the Strait of Hormuz. And, Iran just denied, Trump's request for a ceasefire. Hey, they're all in. They're all in for this growing war against the U.S. and the state of Israel, which is only going to continue to intensify until the War of Armageddon, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. One of the world's most critical oil routes, triggering fears of prolonged shortages and soaring fuel prices. Among the recommendations are expanded remote work where possible, reducing highway speed limits, and cutting back on air travel to limit strain on global supplies, which you're already seeing issues at these airports with TSA workers quitting in droves because they're not getting their full paychecks, and long ass lines. I know down here in New Orleans, I saw a clip of Armstrong Airport where the lines were so long that they went back all the way into the parking garages. And then you just had that refinery in Texas explode the other day, which refines, diesel and jet fuel and all these things. Again, the poly crisis. And going back to K. Schwab, the great RESET, to where you will own nothing and be happy. The ultimate goal is everybody in 15-minute cities, eating bug burgers with only 3 pairs of clothes to change with throughout the year, And using, the point of the 15-minute city is not to have personal vehicles, to either walk to where you need to get to, I guess take a little bike or whatever limited public transportation they're going to have. And then, of course, everybody having that micro C-hip implant in them, which is the mark of the BEAST in Revelation 13, verses 16 to 18. The IEA also suggests shifting travel from private cars, you will own nothing, to public transportation and be happy, and restricting vehicle access in major cities on alternating days based on license plates. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. It further proposes increasing carpooling, adopting fuel-efficient driving practices, and diverting liquefied petroleum gas away from vehicles to preserve supplies for essential uses. Several of the measures, if adopted, would require sweeping changes to daily routines, particularly in major cities heavily dependent on private vehicles and air travel. While the watchdog said the steps are intended to help countries stretch limited supplies, stabilize markets, and shield households from the worst effects, the 10 measures have sparked fury online. And hey, best believe that these major shortages, not just of fuel, but of food and other necessities, are coming down the pipeline. This is 2nd Esdras, chapter 16. I'm going to read verse 22 and, come back to this verse later. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. And what does a farmer do? He sows his croplands. And with this, closure or partial closure right now, the Strait of Hormuz, you've got a lot of vital fertilizers for farmers in different countries that go through the strait. And, now they're warning of food shortages due to those fertilizers not getting to their respective countries. The fool's storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. What? Gas stations, being empty or having limited fuel supplies to where they're gonna have to ration it out. And like they were mentioning in that article, alternate driving days depending on your license plate. Empty store shelves due to what? Diesel shortages. So what? Truckers can't deliver goods to the stores, etc., etc. It's all, a vicious circle. But now I'm going to go to my second bit of information on Dabu77's YouTube channel titled Get Ready for Blackouts. AI and drone attack simulation exposed a massive grid vulnerability. Hey, that's another thing. The U.S., electrical grid is archaic, it's decaying, and is ripe for the picking, to where it wouldn't take too much just to push it over the edge and create blackouts out here. You've already been having major cyber attacks take place, like that recent one with Stryker in the medical field, Cloud Outlook and AWS, talks of EMPs, you name it. And, when you go to those experts, they say, with the simulations they've run, I think they said for about maybe a month to 3 months, maybe a little more, if the power was out in the United States of America, you would see how can I put it? You would see an expiration date of 90% of the U.S. population. But this is fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this video, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Americans feel the shock of higher gas prices at the pump. There's another energy crisis brewing across the country, but the people who actually run the electrical grid issuing stark warnings. For 100 years, America's electrical system, mostly stable, with blackouts being the rare exception. But when they do happen, they can have exceptional consequences.
The situation here in Brownsville was described as anarchy, war, rioting.
Every source of power that the state of Texas has been compromised.
Now a new combination of the latest artificial intelligence data centers and aging power plants is creating a perfect storm, from the big city to the Great Plains.
It's becoming more of a challenge across the whole eastern part of the United States.
Rich Dewey oversees NISO, which runs the grid in New York.
Rich, you say the grid is at an inflection point. What does that mean?
Really, it's a confluence of a number of different factors. So we're on the cusp of really new technologies coming onto the grid, and it's really got us concerned about our ability to meet reliability for not only for New York City, but for the state as a whole.
Dewey says on a peak day, the demand is 32 to 33,000 megawatts. Now they have proposals for 13,000 more megawatts in demand for AI alone, a nearly 50% increase.
At a time of significant load growth, we're actually
And that's another cause of concern for shortages out here. Water shortages due to all that water from these different reservoirs and lakes and rivers needing to be used to cool down those AI data centers.
hiring more generation that we're building, and that gives us some concern.
Now, if you couple that with this growing threat here of drones hitting the grid, it's not going to be a good situation. We have the U.S. government and the Department of Homeland Security, which is underfunded and partially shut down right now, saying that they have concerns that these drones are going to be used on our electrical grid in North America specifically, and they ran simulations.
And best believe they will, whether they be from foreign actors or whether they be from your own government doing FFs out here. Not Fast and the Furious, but FALSE, FLAGSs.
To see what would happen if these Iranian drones specifically were launched from somewhere, let's say Mexico, and they weren't able to take them down. If they were
And I did a video, the other week on how there are warnings going out that cargo ships could be used to shoot missiles or fly drones from on the West Coast. They do the West Coast, the East Coast isn't safe, nor, the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, which, as I said in that video, when you go to the Economist cover for 2026, they had a drawing of a cargo ship with missiles flying from it. And you had drones and robots and all kind of things on that cover.
able to hit just a handful of sites, they would cripple this country in a heartbeat. Most of the components that you're going to need to get back up online, ironically enough, are going to come from China. So this whole thing is a setup. Has been, will be, through and through. So they're going to continue with these drills and these simulations, but none of them bring back anything.
Slovakia, kind of in a little bit of a spotty area right now.
Is a setup. Has been, will be, through and through. So they're going to continue with these drills and these simulations, but none of them bring back anything.
That's Satan for you.
Can feel the shock of higher gas prices at the pump. There's another energy crisis brewing across the country, but
Continue with these drills and these simulations, but none of them bring back anything good. They all say the same thing, that you're vulnerable here, 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 and here, and that you have to do something about it. And what you see on the right is highways putting up drone netting. These are things cities and towns do when they know that something's going down and they're taking it serious. I foresee this happening in cities along the border, in any city that starts to see these drone incursions en masse, because I believe they're going to come in waves just as the Obama movie predicted, and they're going to cause mass problems. This is just the beginning of all this. For anyone thinking that it's going to be over soon, nope, they've already killed high spiritual individuals out there in Khomeini, maybe not to you, but to others, and that causes kamikazes. That sparks blowback regardless of how staged things are out there, because some people take it to heart seriously. Then when you add in the whole thing as a setup to begin with, this does not look good. It looks like the grid is definitely going to take a hit. I would prepare for that and have a plan. Join me for the live streams where I talk about this in greater detail. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern.
There you have it. And remember, you heard it first from the men of the Lord, the prophets of Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai, chiefly of GMS or Great Millstone, from our apostles and elders all the way down to the youngest man in sincerity. Shortages, L-downs, martial law, all these things. But let's get back to these precepts. Back in 2nd Ezra 6:23, and the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. And, when people really start hearing these, physical warnings out here, this is not a drill, hearing it on the mainstream news, start really seeing it at these store shelves and these gas stations. Hey, that's when a lot of people, especially a lot of you Israelites, are going to want to get, right. Your so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. But for 2/3 of you, it's already too late. Verse 24, at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And what's a major thing that would cause that? Blackouts, food shortages, fuel shortages, a state of civil unrest, anarchy, people having to be concerned with the survival of not just themselves, but their loved ones. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. Now listen, the springs of the fountains, the waters, shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. What were they mentioning throughout that video? All that water being used to fuel those data centers, could put a heavy strain on the U.S. electrical grid, which it will. And then what? If the electricity goes out, all these different services, water that goes to houses, all kinds of stuff, just takes down the entire, system. And people are really going to be asked out here and completely desperate. No power, no water, empty store shelves, you name it. Bringing it back to what? And at that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. Now let's go to 2nd Ezra chapter 16. I really want to get verses 47 to 48, but we'll read verses 46. Because, just as it said, and friends shall fight one against another like enemies. This is all the other things, you wicked people, especially in America, have to look forward to during Jacob's trouble, which for all intents and purposes, you can say we are in the beginning of. It's only going to get worse from here on out. As it says in Matthew chapter 24, verse 8, all these are the beginning of sorrows. For strangers shall reap their fruits and spoil their goods and overthrow their houses. As it says in 2nd Ezra 15, verse 19, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor and spoil their houses with the force of the sword due to the lack of bread. Shortages out here. And suddenly shall the full storehouses be found empty due to, many factors such as what? Fuel shortages leading to these different trucks not delivering goods to the stores, all kinds of things. And overthrow their houses and take their children captives, for in captivity and famine shall they get children. That's another thing that's going to be happening, children, women, loved ones getting kidnapped out here, whether to be held for ransom or what, to be held for pleasure. You've already got human trafficking at an all-time high, all over the United States of America. I remember seeing a clip. It was a woman down in Texas where she was at a gas station, and she recorded that above by where they had the bathrooms. You have the male bathroom and then the female bathroom. She said that there was a special lock at the top of the female bathroom door that locked from the outside. So what? Traffickers see somebody they want, they hit that lock, and that's all she wrote. And, as it says in Luke, if this happens in a green tree, when things are still relatively calm, you got power, you got the internet, you can still afford things at the grocery stores. How much more in the dry tree when it truly is, all hell tell the captain out here. Verse 47, and they that occupy their merchandise with robbery, which is what the United States of America is built off of, grape, robbery, and murder. And just look at Nero 47's regime. Everything he's doing is just naked aggression to fill the pockets of, his rich friends, fill his pockets and, the pockets of the 1948ers. The more they deck their cities, their houses, their possessions, and their own people. Here we are on the verge of societal collapse, on the verge of World War III. But what? You still got these people thinking that 2026 is going to be their year. You still see all these new buildings getting built up. Down here, next month, they've got something called French Quarter Fest and Jazz Fest. People celebrating down here. You've got, these issues with TSA at the airports. But with our people, what? They're especially you women out here. You're concerned about going to spring break or what, having a hot girl summer. The more will I be angry with them for their sin, saith Yahweh. So you people's carelessness, especially in this place, the land that dwelleth carelessly without walls, as it says, in Ezekiel 38, and in Isaiah 47, it talks about how this place is careless. The more nonchalant you people are, as judgment is brewing out here, and especially when you've got the prophets telling you what's about to come to pass, the greater that judgment is going to be on you people when Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai really opens up his armory of horrors on you. But now I'm gonna close it out in Revelation chapter 6. I'm gonna start at verse 5. And when this is dealing with the so-called 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, which are just symbolic of things that would be taking place, during the last days, which we're currently in, really the last seconds of the last days. And the header reads, the third seal, famine. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard the voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. And when you go into that word penny in the Strongs, it's denarion, which goes back to the chief silver coin of the ancient Roman Empire. And America is Rome reborn. So what would be your modern day denarion, that US dollar, which we can see is quickly losing its value. And, more and more people looking for alternatives to the petrodollar. What has Iran been saying? Look, ships outside of the US and Israel can come through the strait, but you're going to have to pay in that Chinese yuan. But it also says a denarion was then the ordinary day's pay for a work's wages. Because, in the ancient world and according to our law, a man was paid for the work he did that day. It's not like today where a lot of people get paid every 2 weeks or so. So fast forwarding, a measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, using damn near your entire paycheck to buy an ever decreasing amount of goods due to what? Shortages out here, as well as what? Inflation, hyperinflation, where your money damn near is about as important as a, piece of toilet paper, which in the times we're coming into, toilet paper, just like it was during 2019 to 2021, is going to be a high commodity. But now I'm going to go to verse 7. The 4th seal, death. And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard the voice of the 4 beasts say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, Esau Edom, the so-called white man, specifically their elites, which are getting ready to come down in great wrath, as it says in Revelation 12, verse 12, because they know it that they hath but a short time. Esau's getting exposed on all levels. All his plans are falling apart, and he sees that the Israelites and the prophets are out on the scene, and he knows that when these things take place, whatever heathen kingdom that's ruling at the time is going to be taken out of power. And he knows that when his nation goes down this last time, they're never coming back, and then they're going to go into hardcore bondage and slavery, which after 1,000 years, their entire nation's going to get wiped off the face of the earth. So, as it also says in Revelation 12, verse 12, woe to the earth and the sea and them that dwell therein, because that pale horse is about to bring that great death. And his name that sat on him was death, and hell followed with him, the grave, mass death and destruction and horror. And power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth, going into Esau's rulership over the earth. And the main place of judgment is going to be his main power seat, America, Babylon the Great. And power was given unto him over the fourth part of the earth, to kill with sword, martial law, civil unrest, and with hunger, famines, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. And as we just went into with those 2 bits of information, energy L-downs coming, energy crises, blackouts, famines, fuel shortages, you name it. But that's it with this video. With this video, I hope you sincere, Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We are almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.